Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. What if I told you that the middle class is quietly getting richer? Not in a flying a private jet kind of way, but in a quiet, steady, smart money kind of way. Because today's millionaire might not be what you expect. It might be your neighbor with a paid off home, a solid 401k, and a not so flashy car in the driveway. According to UBS's 2025 Global Wealth Report, median wealth in the US has grown over 45% since 2020. And average wealth, well, that only rose 9%. So in this video, let's break that down. How the middle might be doing better than most people realize, and how you may very well be on your way to being what they call an everyday millionaire, even if you don't feel like it yet. Let's start with one of the most misunderstood numbers in finance, average wealth. It sounds pretty important, but it can be totally misleading because it's skewed by the ultra wealthy. Let's say Elon Musk walks into a bar. That may sound like the start of a good joke, but quite frankly, my jokes kind of fall flat most of the time. Suddenly, everyone in that room has the average wealth in the billions, but nothing really changed for the 20 other people in the bar, right? That's why median wealth matters more. It tells a better story because it's the exact middle. Half the population has less and half the population has more. And here's what's wild. The median wealth per adult in the US jumped from around $85,000 to $124,000 in just a few years. That's a 45% increase. Meanwhile, average wealth only crept up from about $570,000 to $620,000, about a 9% increase. So what does that tell us? It tells us that the middle, everyday American, is probably doing better than a lot of those headlines would have you believe. And yes, inflation has been real, but so has the increase in value in homes, as well as retirement account balances and investment account balances. Families who stayed consistent, who kept investing and kept saving and didn't take on too much debt, kept moving forward. It's not loud, it's not flashy, but it is real wealth and it's often growing quietly in the background. Let's talk about a group that's quietly shaping the future of wealth, and you might even be one of them without realizing it. Here's something I learned while researching this video. Everyday Millionaire, that actually has a different name called EMILLIs. Have you guys heard of that one before? Let me know in the comments down below. I try to stay on top of terminology, but I swear this one had to come from Gen Z. And this captures everyday millionaires who have a net worth from, say, $1 to $5 million. And the fact of the matter is, these EMILLIs, or everyday millionaires as I'm going to continue to call them because I'm nearly 40 and I can't get away with that, they aren't that rare anymore. According to the UBS report, there are now 52 million everyday millionaires worldwide. In the US alone, there's more than 379,000 people that joined the Millionaire Club in 2024. That's over 1,000 new millionaires every single day. But here's the thing, they aren't celebrities or hedge fund managers. Instead, they're teachers and business owners and engineers and government workers. They're the ones who bought their homes 20 years ago and kept investing consistently and just didn't inflate their lifestyle too much. So what do they actually do differently? Well, there are a few core traits that this report focused on. They own their home, often for 10, 15, even 20 or more years. They don't constantly upgrade. They stayed put and they let their equity continue to grow. They continually contributed or even maxed out their retirement accounts, 401ks, IRAs, TSPs, not perfectly, but consistently. They avoided lifestyle inflation. When they got a raise, they didn't immediately go out and book that next vacation or upgrade their car. They also increased how much they were saving. Many ran a small business or had a side hustle. Nothing too flashy. Maybe it was a little bit of consulting. Maybe they had a couple rentals. Maybe they started an Etsy shop and it took off. And perhaps most importantly, they stayed invested through the noise. Through COVID, market drops, and scary headlines, they just kept investing. And these are the habits that build real wealth. Slowly, quietly, reliably. Now let's contrast that with the kind of millionaire that we tend to picture when we think about a millionaire. And this is the decamillionaire, someone who has 10 million or more in assets. That kind of wealth usually includes access to private equity deals, advanced tax strategies, a family office, maybe a company sale, a huge inheritance, or a liquidity event. It's a different world with trusts, legal complexity, and generational planning. But everyday millionaires, they're not really playing that game. They tend to be building wealth in a way that's more accessible and honestly more relatable. And that's really the shift in mindset that I want you to have. Because building wealth and becoming a millionaire isn't as out of reach as it seems. It's not about being a unicorn or a Wall Street elite. It's in reach for the everyday American who creates a plan and sticks to it and invests consistently and really lets compounding do its thing over the course of decades. Now let's get into the heart of this story. Where are everyday millionaires actually building their wealth, and how is it growing? UBS breaks wealth down into 3 categories: financial assets like stocks, retirement accounts, pensions, and cash; non-financial assets like real estate or privately owned businesses; and of course, debt. Think mortgages, loans, and credit cards. And in the US, here's what we've seen in the past 5 years. Home values have surged. The median home value in the year 2000 was $250,000. By 2024, it was $350,000. That means the typical homeowner gained $100,000 in equity. Retirement accounts bounced back. Of course, there was a pretty abrupt dip in 2022, but in 2020, the typical account balance was about $85,000. By 2024, it was $115,000. The markets have delivered. There has been a lot of volatility, that's for sure, but the S&P 500 has increased. In 2023, the returns were over 24%. In 2024, another 11.5% on top of that. This has lifted account balances across the board. Debt is coming down. The average mortgage debt fell from $145,000 to $127,000. This means that many households are getting far more stable financially, at least when it comes to everyday millionaires. So if you've owned your home, if you continue to invest in your 401k, if you've been chipping away at your debt, you're likely riding this wave. You're well on your way, or maybe you've already become the everyday millionaire. That's how these everyday millionaires are made. But there is something to be cautious about. High net worth doesn't always mean high liquidity. More and more people are becoming house rich and cash poor, with more and more of their wealth being tied up in their house with very limited cash flow or little liquidity. UBS didn't give an exact number, but we know from other sources like the Federal Reserve that home equity makes up over 65% of total wealth for the median household. So yes, owning a home matters, but drywall doesn't pay dividends. To grow your wealth, you also need an income and flexibility, and this is really what moves the needle over time. And let's clear up something really crucial. High income doesn't automatically equal high wealth. Take countries like Germany and Japan. They may sound like total powerhouses with strong economies and strong personal incomes, but when it comes to personal wealth levels, they tend to lag behind a bit. Why? Because even though their personal savings rate, in Germany, it's often reported that their personal savings rate hovers around 20%, that doesn't necessarily translate to long-term wealth building. Here's what the report says. It's because there's limited home ownership, lower stock market participation, and higher taxes on investment gains. All of those factors can slow your wealth building engine even when your savings rate is high. Now compare that to the US. Comparatively, we have high home ownership rates, widespread access to the stock market, and millions of people using private retirement accounts like 401ks and IRAs. Even with a more modest savings rate, you pair that with ownership and long-term investing, and this can really accelerate the wealth building process. Here's the insight. Your income is just the tool, your wealth is the result. What you need is a plan that allows you to save and invest consistently, to have time on your side to really allow compounding to do its job, and if you can own a home, well, that's even better. The bottom line is that a high income is potential, but really what matters most is that you're saving and investing and finding a way to have ownership, whether that's through your portfolio or through a home, or better yet, even both. That's where you build wealth. Here's something most people don't talk about enough. Wealth isn't just being built, it's being transferred. UBS estimates that over the next 25 years, we'll see $83 trillion change hands in what's being called the Great Wealth Transfer. Roughly $9 trillion of that will move between spouses. In the US, That typically means from husbands to wives, especially as women outlive men on average. The rest, the vast majority, will pass on to children and grandchildren, and often this is done with zero preparation. Why does this matter so much? Well, for the first time in history, women are going to control more wealth than ever before. Yet many haven't been brought into these conversations. Many don't know where the accounts are, who the advisor is, what the long-term plan is. And the situation is much the same for children and heirs. Most haven't had any conversations about taxes, beneficiary designations, or what to do when that inheritance hits. They're inheriting IRAs without understanding the 10-year rules, without knowing RMDs, without understanding a step-up basis. They're inheriting these accounts without understanding that there can be very real tax burdens that come with inherited money. And here's the truth. The wealth that took you decades to build can disappear in just a few short years after your passing if your heirs are not prepared. So what the really smart thing to do is to have these conversations today before any wealth changes hands. Talk about your legacy before it becomes urgent. This doesn't have to be a scary or a morbid conversation. It's about values and what you want your money to do after you're gone. Use estate planning tools, wills and trusts, and updated beneficiary designations. These are the guardrails that keep wealth from going sideways. Involve your heirs now. If you are leaving assets behind, tell your heirs now. Let them know what they stand to inherit. Help them understand the big picture and help them prepare. Introduce them to your advisor. Help them plan for the next phase. Here's what I see all too often. Parents who spend a lifetime saving, investing, and sacrificing, building up a sizable wealth that they pass on to a child who they didn't prepare to inherit it. They assume that their child will just figure it out. Talk to them, teach them, prepare them. That conversation, or many conversations as it should be, can be the difference between preserving a legacy or watching it completely disappear. The US is quietly building a new generation of everyday millionaires. And if you're saving, investing, and staying focused, you may already be one or well on your way. The media loves to obsess over billionaires, but the real story is the everyday middle America, the working families who are investing every single day, laying a strong foundation brick by brick. And now, with the largest wealth transfer in history already underway, we're not just talking about building wealth. We're talking about preserving it, protecting it, and passing it on with purpose. So don't just track your 401k, track your trajectory. And wealth isn't just about building it, it's also about what you do with it. What are your thoughts on everyday millionaires? Leave them in a comment down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, consider subscribing. Or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye. What? Might want to start the video with, hey guys. But here's the thing, they aren't celebrity, hedge fund, oh my goodness. But here's the thing, they aren't celebrities, oh my gosh, I can't talk, and reliably. Peanut's back there, he's upset about something. Hi cutie pie. Can you go back to sleep for just a little bit? I'm almost done, and then you and I can go do something fun. But not yet. I love you.